Hey everyone, well, I am back here with my Husqvarna 262 XP, the bad deal saw. Well, guess what, Look what showed up. My new Meteor piston for this saw. Ordered it surprisingly a little over a week ago from a supplier in Europe, and it's already was in my mailbox this morning, so pretty impressed with that. Anyways, it also comes with a, caber ring. So there we go. The one thing that doesn't come with is a wrist pin bearing. I've got a brand new OEM Husqvarna wrist pin bearing that I ordered at one of my local dealers, and they messaged me a few days ago actually that it's now showed up, so they have that. So next time I go to town I will stop in over there and I will pick up that, and then I'm just waiting on the top end cylinder here to show up. So I got a good used one that I got a hold of at a very reasonable price, so that's being shipped out to me. A few more days and that should be here, and then we're going to start reassembling this saw. But in the meantime, I went ahead and put my new wrist pin in, and I had an old wrist pin bearing here that just using for mock-up for now. Got the piston on here, and I wanted to show you folks all something from the last video I did when I took this saw apart. Some of you actually in the comments section got downright nasty. A couple of you were well, basically just plain I had to delete a couple because we're getting into name calling and all kinds of nasties, and well, I'm not going to get too into it, other than they started calling my intelligence into question, and one of you I think actually got deleted from YouTube before I could even respond, because it was getting to the point where they were practically dropping threats and calling me a retard and all kinds of things like that. So there's no need for that. I don't mind talking with you folks, and I downright enjoy the interaction, but you don't need to get nasty about it. And all of it came about when I said that these cheap aftermarket pistons, you have to watch the fit and finish on them, and what I was referring to is what I will show here right away is the clearancing or the opening of the piston journals compared to your small end or rod end journal. Now with this aftermarket piston, what I had showed in the video is over here there was excessive slack where the piston was moving back and forth on the top of the connecting rod. And I think there's one or two of you in the comments were saying, well, that's perfectly normal to have a great big gap in the piston, between the piston and the rod journal, and I will tell you, no, it is not. I will argue it till I'm blue in the face, because all the OEM Molly and Gilardi pistons that I've ever seen on these saws have a very close tolerance of only a few thousandths of an inch clearance between the rod and the journals here, the piston pin, wrist pin journals on the piston. And to prove the point, I got this brand new Meteor piston set up here on the saw, and I'll try to get it into some proper light and show that no, I'll zoom in, look, there isn't an excessive amount of play. You do not have over 1/8 to 3/16 of an inch clearance between the rod end and your piston pin journals. This one literally has only a few thousandths of an inch, not flopping around all over side to side like some of these cheap aftermarket pistons. Some of them will either be way too loose, or as one of you had pointed out, that some of the suppliers out there, some of the pistons are actually too tight, and you can't even get the piston down on the journal without actually doing some machine work on the sides of the piston just to get it to slip down over the wrist pin bearing and the rod journal. Now, as like I say, as you can see, this fits exactly how it should. So far, almost every OEM piston that I've ever seen in Husqvarna, Johnson Red, and Stihl saws all pretty much fit the same. Somebody was making the comparison that it's Well, race car engines, high performance race car engines are have free floating wrist pins in them and they self-center and all that. Well, yeah, but a chainsaw has circlips to hold the wrist pin from moving. A chainsaw does not have self-centering or free-floating wrist piston and wrist pin assembly per se. There's a reason why they have circlips on the side of the piston, is to hold your wrist pin in place. And why? This is why. Cylinder ports. Your ports will more than likely, if the wrist pin should walk out, would get caught and completely grenade the whole assembly. I don't think this circlip is even from this. This is something I had on my workbench here from another saw. But just using this as an example, this was another one that I took apart that had some aftermarket cylinder. And this is not an OEM circlip. It's just a soft, mushy one that I took out before it came out and grenaded. And I put some OEM circlips in, I don't know if this was from a still saw or something that I was working on, I believe. But anyways, what'll happen is either the circlip will bounce out if they're soft and mushy, or the wrist pin, if it's too short, like one in this saw here was doing. If you get a wrist pin that's, some of them sometimes are actually too short, and what'll happen is the wrist pin will move back and forth in the piston too much, and it'll bump up against these circlips and it'll pop them out. And if the circlip doesn't get caught in the window port, then there's a chance that this wrist pin will walk out far enough and snag the side of a window port, if on certain saws, if that's how they're set up, and you'll have a total and complete catastrophic failure. So that's the reason what I was explaining, and like I say, no reason to get nasty and start calling my intelligence into question and dropping those kind of insults. If you want to do that, you'll get deleted, and or YouTube will step in themselves and delete your disrespectful comments if you get too nasty. So after all, these are just chainsaw videos. They're not life and death scenarios. We don't have to get so carried away, people. But anyways, fit and finish of a quality piston fits like it should. There are those that want to defend these cheap cylinder kits. Well, you can go ahead and defend them if you want, but I won't be running that kind of crap. Like I say, I've got my OEM cylinder on the way. It's coming. Using a Meteor piston. I would prefer an OEM piston, but the Meteors are pretty decent quality. So anyways, just my 2 cents. Shouldn't have to defend myself, but all too often here on YouTube lately, it seems that that's how it is nowadays. So we'll soon be working on this saw here again when I get the rest of my parts together. And anyways, once again, like I said, thanks everyone, and we'll see you all in the next one.